Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, also from my side. After we heard a lot about climate strategies, climate optimizations, and life cycles yesterday, I would like to show you during the next round about 30 minutes some current approaches, why in our view there is no alternative for carbon reduction in the industry. And after that, I will give you some practical examples how we optimize some energy efficiency project in the industry. But first, let me just introduce myself. My name is Manuel Fath. I'm 36 years old, and I've been working since 2008 in energy efficiency and renewable energy projects. First as a planning engineer at the large energy contractor in the southwest, and now for around about 5 years as part of the Economic Service GmbH, first as a senior consultant, and since 2018 as part of the management board. Why is carbon neutral so important for the industry? First, the question, what do these numbers tell you? I think 2025 is really clear, but what does the other three numbers say to you? Okay. That is the rarity of the carbon costs in the year 2025 for the industrial companies here in Germany. And in my opinion, there is the large variance between the three numbers are a high risk for every management board, because you can see on the next slide, there is a assumption of the three carbon costs developed by three different institutes. The orange one are the numbers of the German government, which are formally known, and the other two one are the carbon costs of the energy expert. The green one are from the German Institute of Economic Research, and the white or gray one, I have to do so, the gray one are the numbers of some climate institutes of Potsdam and Berlin. And as I mentioned before, in 2025, the difference between the German government and the German Institute of Research are more than 16 euros per ton of carbon emission. And example for a medium-sized company with roundabout gas consumption of 20,000 megawatt hours per year, there will be extra costs for around about 100,000 euros per year between this difference. And so I think that's a really high risk for every industry company when you don't know how high the costs of carbon or the carbon costs will be in the next 10 years. So in my opinion, that's the first fact why carbon why the reduction of carbon is really important for our industry. And the second one we discussed yesterday, time had changed. We got an increased awareness regarding to the sustainability. A zero carbon policy is not longer related to a romantical approach of green thinking, and there is a general awareness. The general awareness regarding to the sustainability has changed in the whole world during the last 12 or 18 months. We see the global protests, Fridays for Future. We see mega trends related to the health, related to sustainability. McDonald's sell burger without any meat, for example. And regarding to our topics, energy and environmental, I think there are some relevant statements. First, sustainability has moved up the agenda of the customers and the companies. The second one, we got an increased implementation of energy and environmental management systems here in Germany during the last 8 years. And there is a high demand of transparency with regard to the production and the supply chain of our goods and of our food. And in order to get that transparency, especially for the carbon emissions, a categorization of the emissions are very important. And you know, there are a lot of global guidelines in order to do that. But the most famous guideline is the GHG protocol, or the greenhouse gas protocol. I guess most of you know the greenhouse gas protocol, but let me show you the most important things. In order to develop a carbon footprint for every product or for every company, the division of the carbon emissions in so-called scopes are very important. The first scope includes all the direct emission which were combusted at the company-owned plants. The second scope includes all indirect emissions, especially associated by purchased energy, for example, the electricity or district heating. And the third scope includes the indirect emissions which were produced by travels or business travels or supply chain of the goods. It's very extensive, and there is a lot of work and a lot of tasks in order to get the transparency and finally to reduce your carbon emissions. But it would be very confusing at the beginning, but in my opinion there are 3 sustainable ways and possible paths to do that. The first one is to increase your efficiency at your own plant. The second, also to reduce the energy consumption or the carbon consumption at your plant. The second one is the substitution. Do we choose the right energy? And the last one, or the third one, is the compensation. Which benefit project can we go for after we realize the first 2 paths? Before I will show you some practical examples of our work, I will introduce the Etonomics. We are founded in the year 2012 as a 100% Wisman company. The focus on energy efficiency, cost reduction, and reduction of the carbon emissions is our DNA. Because of that, we are responsible for the central energy management of the whole Wisman Group. We are responsible for around about 180 sites of 80 legal identities throughout Europe. And we deliver our experience by developing more than 130 external energy efficiency projects during a year. And our focus is to reduce the carbon or the energy consumption of a company. And on the second one, we want to refuse the energy which is in the company in as many product steps as possible, for example. And the story of Autonomics started in 2005 with the project Effizient Plus of the Fissmann Group. In that year, the owner of Fissmann, Martin Fissmann, was part of the Industrial Council, which developed or which consults the German government for by developing the German climate scopes for 2030 or 2050. But he was really dissatisfied when he came back from Berlin, because 2030 and 2050 was too far away in 2005, and so he decided to create his own project. He wanted to reach the targets of the German climate goals at the headquarters of Fissmann with the technology of 2008 or 2010. So he decided to modernize the whole plant, the whole headquarters, and all departments of the company were part of it. So, for example, they modernized the whole production in order to reduce the material input. We built 2 biogas plants, 1 dry fermentation and 1 wet fermentation parts. We installed a lot of heat recovery units, for example, out of the cooling, the compressed air, the IT. And we also installed some photovoltaic plants, solar power plants, and we installed 2 new heating system with 2 different temperature levels in order to use all parts of all wastewater, heat wastewater out of our production. And we installed a lot of boilers, especially wood chips, biogas CHPs, in order to reduce our fossil fuels. And in conclusion, Martin Fissmann reached the target with the target in 2050, and showed that they can reach the goals with the technology of 2030. In our mindset, there are several ways to reduce the consumption constantly. The first is the implementation of optimization potentials in the production and in the infrastructure. The second one is to bundle the know-how of the employees with the external knowledge of experts. And the third one is to use or to integrate the production waste heat into supply infrastructure, to use the energy as often as possible. There are 2 ways for increasing efficiency and reduction energy consumption. There are the low invest side and are the side with the capex, but in both sides you need the 2 methods in the middle. You have to rework the plants or the production process after you analyze the production data. But the most best savings are those that cost less, and for that you need the employees of every company. And the first step is, or the first task is the task for the management. They had to motivate their employees, and they had to create a platform for bundling where the employees bundle their experience and their knowledge with the knowledge of the external or internal engineers or experts. And for that, the management has to inform the employees about energy efficiency. They had to introduce the energy efficiency suggestion scheme. They had to introduce some programs, for example, staff train employee. And they had to say that energy efficiency or carbon efficiency becomes part of the, not of the production process, it becomes part of the DNA of the whole company. And then the employees recognize the saving potentials. That's our thinking. And parallel to that, the task of the expert is to analyze the energy data. They have to check the building automatizations. They had to inflow their external know-how, which they have of other projects, and they had to check and do the technical or economic evaluation of the proposed measures. And finally, they need to discuss, or they had to discuss on one eye level in order to talk about the several ideas with what the employee have and the expert have. And finally, that are the basics in order to do some regular implementation and go to treasure hunt. Now some examples. The first one is a really good example for a successful treasure hunt. Here you can show the power profile of a cleaning or washing machine of some motor blocks. At first some trainees ask us if it's possible to shut down the machine at the weekend. The older employees say no, that's not possible because then the machine won't switch on Monday morning. But after our analyzing and with some discussions between the trainees and the employees and some external expert, we test the scenarios and finally it works. So at the end, we got some savings about around 10,000 euro per year, or 32 tons of carbon saving with no invest. And the second one example with really low investment is an optimization after a check of a building automation. The engineers of our customer were really happy to show us their new air conditioning system in a new building production plant. But and they showed us the new building automation system. But then one of our engineers asked them why they use the cooling system by outside temperature of around about 4 degrees. And the engineer become really big eyes because he had no result for our question. And at the end they had to check the whole air conditioning system and the building automation system because there were a lot of mistakes in it. And finally they save around about 30 tons and with only no invest for that optimization. The next example is a good example for substitution gas by heat. We replace old gas boiler for the heating of the production with some heat exchangers and use the waste heat out of the production in order to reheat a second production unit. And so we save a lot of gas and round about 125 tons of carbon per year. The second one, for the next optimization, we need definitely CapEx, but it shows the DNA of the economics. The original concept was based on fossil fuels, and with the concept of the economics, we reduce on one hand the one-on-one exchange of a steam boiler. We install 2 high-speed steam generators, and the most important aspect of our concept is, as I mentioned before, we installed a lot of heat recovery, the heat recovery of compressed air, the heat recovery of the refrigeration system, and finally we used the hot water out of the autoclaves of the battery in order to preheat the new or cold process water. And at the end, with this concept, we got amortization of the investment for the heat recovery of around about 2.5 years, and we save around about 110 tons of carbon per year. And the last example is one of my favorite. It is a new building of an whole production site within a large paint shop, and addition to the last example, we also use the heat and the cooling out of the paint shop in order to heat the whole production site. In addition, the administration offices to heat and to cool this parts of the company. And we use the passive cooling, for example. We use the waste heat utilization of the TNV as a thermische Nachverbrennung. We install also a lot of heat recovery out of the IT systems, out of the of the compressed air systems, and also the result was that we got savings for around about 1,100 tons per year with this optimization. In conclusion, what I want to say is we got an increased focus on climate protection and CO2 savings in the industry during the last years. We got an increased, or the awareness on sustainability and the economic pressure on carbon saving is growing, and in our view there are 2 goals to increase the energy. There are two goals to increase the energy efficiency and to change or choose replace the fossil fuels. But more and more companies are going that way, and it's no matter how difficult or different that the way is. In my opinion, we need 2 players within every company in order to go that way in a successful way. The first one is the management. They had to push the energy policy into the company. The second one are the employees. They had to use their knowledge about the process. And the second one is the external experts would bring the experience from outside into the company. And finally, some words of Ayrton Senna. I really like them. You cannot overtake 15 cars in sunny weather, but you can when it's raining. We know actually we got difficult times, especially for companies. But let's use the advantage of these unusual times to keep forward in sustainability and efficiency. Thank you.